The line that my father always just drilled in me was that you have to work twice as hard to get half as much of what anyone else in the world is going to make.
My first encounter with racism or discrimination involving my skin color.
One day we're at the mall or at the store or something, and I saw him there. So like I ran up to him to say hi, and like his parent like pulled him away quickly.
Kids just didn't necessarily want to play with me all the time, and or I'd be excluded for reasons that at the time remained like just unknown to me. I just could never really understand it.
Honestly, I loved my childhood. I had parents that did their best to create a space for me to be free and as creative as possible. Even though when I hear certain stories, I realize they definitely shielded me from some things. They definitely kept me away from other things, but it definitely helped keep this wonderful vision I have of my childhood alive. In terms of things that my parents told me growing up, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. It seemed crazy growing up because there are so many roadblocks and so many snares in our path that are just there to make us stumble so that you can now fit into the narrative that the world wants you to fit into.
My opinion on the police today is that I just don't really like them at all. Certain things need to change for sure. I know that from my own experience and the experiences of those close to me, I know that we've been unfairly treated by police officers here. I use the example of my little brother. My little brother was out late one night and he was riding his bike. The police pulled him over and they told him that he fit the description of someone robbing homes in the area. So they grabbed him and threw him to the ground, asked him where he's been and questioned him, and they handcuffed him and they were going to take him down to the station, but luckily my little brother knew his rights and he asked them what they were arresting him for and what was going on, and they removed the cuffs from him. And mind you, he was just riding his bike. I think he was coming back from a friend's house. So yeah, it's just one example of so many, and that encounter for him as a 15-year-old kid is probably traumatized. I guarantee you he probably dislikes the police more than I do. This whole Black Lives Matter movement is really important to me because I know that if it's happening to some degree here in Canada, that it's probably happening at a greater degree in America, and it's something that needs attention.
I think back to young Akil, sitting down, practicing, putting all of his work into his poetry. And now I'm standing on a stage before we go out into a march. And what am I doing? I'm expressing how we all feel through that same poetry. It's really great to see how working so hard can like get you somewhere. What I feel like is my biggest accomplishment is owning a company, and I'm able to make a living off of what I love to do. Like that little boy that was sitting down writing in seclusion is now able to share those writings with the world.
One of my greatest accomplishments so far would have to be getting back into the habit of creating, because for a long time I felt what I was doing was almost pointless, so I kind of just stopped drawing, I stopped creating, I stopped painting, I stopped making stuff, I kind of stopped being me. Relatively recently I've been more in touch with myself. I'm really proud of that. For me, this is the greatest thing that I could have ever done.
We're in an age of enlightenment in a way where a lot of people are starting to ask more questions and look more into their past, look more into their way of life, and really wonder why things are the way that they are, and sharing their experiences to let people know how they are living. And I think things like podcasts and my podcast as well bring people's experiences to the foreground so that they can be seen and they can feel like they're heard as well.
The way it works is we strengthen ourselves so that way we can push past it. We strengthen ourselves so that way we don't feel that it's there, and then we have people to support. But as long as there are people who are racist or who believe against us, we don't really ever overcome it, because we don't, it's not beaten until it's gone. It's not non-existent until it's dead. Just like us. We weren't beaten, and we're not non-existent because we're still here. And that's how come we're able to fight. 2 down, 3 up.